Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create a new React app using the Vite build engine and deploy it as an SPA in an AWS S3 bucket. The reason I want to show you how to do this and why I want to use Vite is versus like a full stack framework such as Next.js is because I want to focus on building an SPA and enjoying the pure React experience rather than having to learn all of the quirks of Next.js just to get an application up and running. The vast majority of the time, especially if you're first starting out or if you're building an application for like a medium or small company, is Next.js is just a little bit overkill. You don't need all that junk. And Vite and React offers a great experience to just kind of get you up and running. So as I create more content on this channel, I hope to kind of explain more while I'm using Vite over Next.js. And I think it'll become apparent as we start building out like a backend or using AWS Lambda functions as our backend. You'll realize kind of why Vite simpler is sometimes better in the world of React. So let's get started. You're just getting started, and this is the first time ever using React or trying to build a React project. The first thing you need to do is you need to head over to Node.js and make sure you download the latest long-term support. That's what LTS stands for, version of Node. If you want to see which version you have running, all you got to do is hop over into your command line terminal and type in node-version. I'd also recommend you download an IDE that you feel comfortable with. If you don't know what that is, I would just suggest downloading VS Code and starting from there because it's a pretty versatile IDE, which stands for Interactive Development Environment. VS Code is a great place to start, but there's a lot of other options out there. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into your IDE and kind of navigate to a directory that you want your Node project to be in. You can see here, this is the directory I'm in. I just called it React. But what you do is you just type in npm create Vite at latest at Vite.react. The cool thing is it asks you a few things. So it asks you like which type of framework do you want to use. You can do like anything from this list. In our case, we're going to build a React project. And you can select the variant. In this case, I don't want to use TypeScript, and I also don't want to use SWC. So I just want to use just a plain old vanilla, plain old React using JavaScript. So I click those two things here, and you'll see that it says first I have to actually move into the directory of my React application. So in this case, I called my project React. So when I'm creating my project, it's npm create, then the name of your project is here. I called mine React. You can call yours whatever you want. Doesn't really matter. But you can see it creates the directory with the name that I specified. In this case, it's React. And you can see it kind of gives you the skeleton of your React project. But you'll notice that the second line is very important. You need to install the node modules associated with your project. And in order to do that, it's very easy because you can just run npm I or npm install. Doesn't really matter. Both are the same. And you'll notice that after a few seconds, a node module will appear inside of your React directory. And a node module serves as the local repository for all third-party libraries and dependencies required by your React project. Sounds like a lot, but you don't really need to know that. You just need to make sure you run npm I or npm install, or else your React project won't work at all. The next thing you'll notice is your package.lock file that describes all your node modules. We don't need to worry about that too much here, but we're going to go to your package.json file. So inside of here, you'll notice here's the name of your React project. You can see a bunch of interesting things, but what we're going to focus on is this script section. Because this is what you need in order to like have npm run and serve your application or build a production-ready React application. So in order to just kind of see what's going on, you can type in npm run and then the script that you want to have run. So in this case, I want to run npm run dev. And you'll notice here that in a few seconds, it says, Vite running, and here is the local host. You can push this button here and navigate to your own local host, and you'll see what Vite kind of gives you out of the box. Pretty cool, right? That's great. You can click this little counter button, counts up. It's all great. But what we want to do is we want to actually build a production-ready application. So to get out of this in VS Code, you hit Q and enter. And then it just type Q and hit enter. Don't hold Q, as you saw from me. But what we want to do is we actually want to build a production-ready React application, an SPA, right, that we can put into an S3 bucket. So in order to do that, again, pretty simple. It's npm run build. And what you'll notice is that it builds your version of React. It gives you some interesting information about the size of these applications and the gzip size. That means that the size is actually transferred over the network when a user accesses your application. But the more important thing that you want to see here is that it creates another directory called a dist directory. And this actually contains our SPA. So React is a single page application, right? So it all starts with index.html. And then inside of your assets, you can have all the JavaScript that you're used to, the optimized JavaScript that will be going over the wire to your user screen, but we don't need to worry about that, right? So all we do is run npm dist and just remember that or npm build, and remember all the contents of your SPA exists here in your dist directory. Awesome. Now let's get this thing up into an S3 bucket. So in order to do that, you need to log into your AWS environment and navigate to S3 because it's going to be served out of an S3 bucket. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to need to create a bucket. One thing I would recommend you doing, though, is make sure that you're locating it in the right region. In this case, I am in Northern California, so that's why I'm in EU West 1. Your bucket name here, this is the region that your bucket's going to be created in. Test bucket for YouTube channel, and then some stuff there. So I need to make sure that this name is unique globally. So even though I'm creating in the EU West region, it needs to be unique globally. That's why I added that stuff at the end to make sure that it's a global bucket and it's going to be globally unique. The next thing I need to do is I need to enable ACLs. So since it stands for access control list, I can talk about it later if anyone's interested in it. But I need to enable ACLs. And I also want to disable this block all public access because I want to serve my application out of an S3 bucket, at least at the beginning. And you need to acknowledge that these things will become publicly available or can be publicly available. And then lastly, what I do is I hit create bucket. Then I wait a second. Perfect. Okay, next we need to configure our S3 bucket to be ready to serve our SPA. So what we do is we head over here to properties. Then we scroll down to the bottom and we go to static website hosting here. We hit edit. We want to enable static website hosting. We come down here. Here's kind of two important things. We want to know our index document. This is going to be our home or default page for our website, index.html. If you actually plan to run this for a company and not move this under behind a CDN like CloudFront, you need to make sure that you specify both the index and your error document to be the same document because your SPA is your single page application. So everything is running through your HTML file. What React does is it loads all the JavaScript behind this index.html. So if you want your error handling to also be done by SPA, your React app, and you're going to keep it in this S3 bucket permanently, you need to change this error document. But don't worry too much about that now because in later videos, I'll show you how to move it behind Route 53 and CloudFront. But I just want to point that out for anyone who's actually going to use this as a company website or a company application directly from an S3 bucket. Okie dokie. So there's that. We have configured our S3 bucket. That's great. The next thing we need to do, though, is we need to actually move our application, like our SPA, into this S3 bucket. So what we'll do is we go to YouTube bucket here. And then what we're going to do is go to our dist folder, so our distribution folder. So here, I have it as a different window, but it's also this guy here. So what you're going to do is you're going to copy all of the contents, including the assets and HTML and byte SVG. You're going to move it into your S3 bucket here. And then you will hit upload. So when S3 first got rolled out, there was a lot of issues with things becoming public that the account holders didn't intend to become public. So in order to make these assets available to the public, even though it's in a public S3 bucket, you need to make them public using your ACL. That's the thing we did on the last page. That's why I said you have to enable the ACLs. So that way you can say these are public. So after I say make public, these three objects and all of its content, so the directory has several files within them, are all now publicly available. Which is great, but now you're like, how do I see this, which was running on localhost? I want to see this now running in my S3 bucket. So what you do is you go back to properties again, you go to the very bottom, and you'll see bucket website endpoint. So if you click on this, it will take you to, again, the same application. Let's make it a little bigger. This was our running on localhost, and now you can see that our application is available under test bucket for YouTube channel, then this .s3 website at EUS1 Amazon.com. You can see same functionality exists. That's great. But that doesn't really help you, right? Because you probably want to make sure, like you can see this is not secured because there's no encryption going to and from the S3 bucket. The URL isn't ideal. But in my next video, I'm going to show you how to deploy the same website using AWS S3. Because I want to use AWS Route 53. I want to use CloudFront. I want to move away from using my AWS console because sometimes you don't really remember how you click things and you want to deploy things in a uniform fashion. So I'm going to be using CloudFormation and AWS SAM, which stands for Serverless Application Model. We'll get to that in a little bit. But if you enjoy this type of content, please subscribe to the channel. I'm new to this, so every new subscriber helps. And if you have any questions about what I did or about SPAs or about how to deploy stuff in AWS, please put your comments in, like your questions in the comments, and I'll try to support wherever I can. Thank you so much for watching.